And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans and 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. How cool is that? And we're also being live streamed wherever podcasts live. So we're not hard to find, including my YouTube channel. So go there and subscribe. To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, all my brothers and sisters in Christ and fellow experiencers, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother and abbot for the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I'm team member with Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of GhostBeGone.biz. And yeah, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents The Legion of Exorcists, which premiered on Travel Channel and is now currently streaming everywhere and on a world tour. So that's awesome if you haven't yet caught that. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see. Both my books are there. God Ghosts in the Paranormal Ministry and God Ghosts in the Paranormal Ministry 2. You can get them a little less expensive on Amazon, and they also come available in a audio version, which is awesome. But if you buy them off the website, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support St. Jude and the ASPCA. So how cool is that? You get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. And if they leave here, my office, which is everything off the website leaves my office here, I autograph them and they arrive to you in a beautiful house blessing kit. And you never know when one of those is going to come in handy. So that's also awesome. My online course is on the website that you can enroll in, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. You can reach out to me and talk to me more about the syllabus of the course to make sure it's something that really speaks to you if you have a calling for that kind of thing. Or you can just go ahead and enroll in the course. It's a 12-week online college level course, and all my students that graduate get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion, suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed items that you can only get from yours truly. And there's also a place on there where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues. But remember, my wife and I, we don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So if you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you, it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. Okay, we have an awesome show today. But of course, you all knew that. That's why you tuned in. My awesome guest is waiting in the green room, and I'm going to bring him out here in just a moment. I want to send Annette's deepest, sincere apologies for having to sit this one out today. She's really under the weather. So let's keep her all in your prayers. That's Annette Munich. She's the owner of Stellium Books. She's my publisher and my permanent co host, but she's going to sit out today. So let's send positive vibes for restored health to my dear friend Annette Munich. Okay, my guest today, what can I say about him? I met him for the first time in person the last time he was on the show, which wasn't too long ago. Not only did he quickly become a fan favorite, and people are asking, when's he going to be back? When's he going to be back? But I became a fan. I love him. I respect him. I think he's super cool. He's a world renowned, truly gifted psychic medium, radio, TV, film personality, author, speaker, life coach, you name it. Just a super cool dude. Everybody, please give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only Rick Hayes.
Thank you, Father Shawn. It's great to be back.
How are you, brother?
I'm fantastic. I've had a full day of sessions and connections with those in the next part of life, and it's been just an incredible day. But every day you wake up, it's an incredible day, you know? So,
Annette really sends her sincere apologies for having to miss out today. She's a big fan and a friend of yours. So
yeah,
she
this is for Annette. Give her a heart, you know. So, heart to Annette. I love her.
well, listen, I'm gonna jump into the deep end without my floaties on and just put your feet right to the fire. And you mentioned something about the other side. I know you've got your own personal hotline to heaven and to the other side. You don't even probably the veil. You don't have a veil around you. I have to ask you, what do the dead really want when they hang around? And I ask you that because I talk to a lot of people who are near death experience survivors. And one, they talk about having crossed over and seen heaven and how beautiful it was and how wonderful they felt and how they didn't want to come back, but they were told they needed to come back. So they come back. And then I don't like to call myself a psychic medium, but been seeing spirits since I was very young. I've communicated with many spirits during cases I've worked. And I always find it amazing why some spirits just don't want to do that whole crossover thing. I don't think they're stuck, but you're the expert on this. I'm really interested to know your take on it. You communicate with the dead a lot. What is it that they really want, and why do some of them just they're just here, and some of them are here for what seems like hundreds of years, old spirits, and a lot of immediate family members that a lot of people reach out to me and say, I see my mom or I see my dad or my brother or sister have passed. They're just hanging around. Um, and a lot of us loved ones that are still here behind that don't know how to communicate. That can be very frustrating too. So, what's going on?
Well, I'm a little bit different, I think, in the industry myself because I agree with you. They're not trapped. Spirits are not trapped here. I have a good friend who's got a very, very popular show. He actually started the ghost hunting uh, series, and he and I saw one of his shows. I don't watch many of them, but I watched one of his shows, and he was showing on there the spirit in this place, and and he said, well, it's went through this wall, and then later on at the end of the show, he said, well, they're trapped here. And so when I had an opportunity to have a conversation with him later, I said, I didn't quite understand this because I said, you shared that you saw a spirit go through a wall, and he said, correct. And I said, and then at the end you said they're trapped there. He said, right. And I said, well, how can they be trapped if they can go through a wall? You know? And so my feeling is, we put this. And I grew up in a church atmosphere. My mom's a preacher's daughter. My grandfather was a very renowned and respected evangelist, and we was taught going to church that we go to a place called heaven, and it describes heaven in biblical scriptures. And I got to tell you this real quick. It was interesting because as a little kid, I kept telling my parents I wasn't going to heaven. And that's something you don't say. You don't say you're not going to heaven. And they kept asking me why I kept saying that. And I told him, I said, because what I was being taught in church was we was going to another place. And I said, I don't want to leave the people I like here. It's like the preacher was telling me I'm going somewhere and I don't want to leave the people I like here. So as I continued on with my journey and my path in life and connecting with my loved ones in spirit and connecting with those in spirit, my feeling is that there's not really a veil. There's not really, it's it's and I don't use the term heaven. I call it a life continual. Just it's my preference because that's what it is. It's a continuing life. It's not an end. But I don't use the word death or dead when I speak. It's because that means an end in life. We don't end in life. We just simply leave this physical body, which is the earthly body, and we transit into our body of spirit, which is I call the original body, which is what we was at the beginning, and we go on with life. And the best way I describe it with my clients is that those that are in spirit are simply in the next part of life. It's like you're in your office right now. I'm in my office right now. But if our offices were in the same building, we'd be in different offices, but we'd be in the same building. It's the same thing with life. There, those in spirit are in a different part of life and a part of life than we are right now, but on the so it's just a continuing process. And I feel that those in spirit are just simply sharing with us a couple of things. I think they're sharing with us, hey, you know, we're still around. Life continues on. And the second is that I feel that they're around us to say, when they want to connect with us, they're saying, we want you to know we're okay. We want you to know everything's okay. If you go to a location and they're wanting you to learn what they experienced there in life, they want you to know the memories they have there in life. And so it's just a continuing life is a continuing process. It don't end. And so those in spirit are just back in their original body is what I feel. And they're here to help us to know how valuable life really is.
They almost, and I've always believed this, they almost become like, I do believe in true guardian angels, but they
Mm-hmm.
almost become like uh, an additional guardian angel family. And they almost,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, become a lot of your passed on loved ones become like guardian angels also over you. I mean, I have people that reach out to me all the time. I get some of my colleagues push back on me a little bit about this, but I believe that we can coexist with spirit. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it freaks somebody out. It freaked me out when I was a kid and saw them. And my mother always told me there's nothing to fear. They're just people that don't have a body anymore. And if you see one, if you're not so freaked out that you can manage to ask them, what is it that you want? Do you have a message or can I help you with something? And if you can't do that, then just simply be honest with them and tell them that their appearance uh, is freaking you out and scaring you, and you wish that they didn't do that anymore. I tell families all the time, they say, like I told you a little bit earlier, they see a family member that's crossed over around the house or out on the property. Um, and some families get really freaked out about it. Not that the spirit is doing anything to scare them, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
for some people they can't wrap their head around the fact that they still see the apparition of their loved one. And then some families I talk to are so comfortable with it, it's just like it's not a big deal. And as long as there's nobody in the house that's really freaked out about it. It almost, I believe you can coexist with spirit. And I tell people all the time, if it is a spirit that you recognize, then just get the family together, sit around the table at home, and talk to the spirit and tell
Mm-hmm.
them, listen, we know you're here. Hopefully, you don't like the word dead, but I tell them, hopefully, you're dead and you're of the ages now and not of this world. You need to go where you need to go. But if you hang out here, you're welcome to. Um, just please try not to scare us.
Yeah.
And yeah, so do you feel? And this is a weird question to ask you because in a sense you do coexist with spirit. But what would you say to families like that wonder, is it okay that we coexist with them, or do we really need to force them to cross over because it's much better where they need to be than where it is here?
Well, that's where I'm a little bit different too. First of all, my answer to that briefly is that if you were in their shoes, wouldn't you want your loved ones here to wouldn't you want your loved ones here to let them know that you're okay, that you're continuing on in life? Sure, you would. You would do whatever you could to let them know that we're still around. It kind of makes me cringe a little bit when someone says, "Well, I lost my dad or I lost my mom," and it's like they're not lost; they're still around. But just like you would if you transited, what I call transit, if you went to spirit, you would do it. You would want them to know you're okay, that they're still around and they're still a part of your life. Um, the other part is of that question is that, and I'm I've been in this industry 25 years, and at my age, I honestly can say I feel like I'm the old wise old man on the mountain because I'm at the age where I can say that now. So, but the other part is that I don't feel that we have a I don't feel we have this part of life. We have a section, and then the next part of life is is what many call crossing over, going into the next part of life. I don't feel like there's a void in between that. I feel like it's simply going from this life to next life, and the one spirit are in the next part of life. In church, we called it in heaven, but they still have the opportunity to be around us as well. It's a part of heaven. It's almost like I share, Shawn. If you had, it makes sense to me that God would say, "I want you to live forever. I want you to live life forever, but I'm not going to separate you all. You're going to be in heaven, but you're also going to be here. This can be a part of heaven." And so I feel like that there's not a veil. It kind of gets me a little bit too when I have psychic mediums in this industry says, "Well, I'm going to help them cross over." And my first response is, "So you know more about crossing over than the person that's actually there?" That don't make sense to me. It's like I think they would know more than you would. So if someone tells me, for example, that they say, "Well, can you help this person cross over?" It's like they're already there. They're already there. They know what they're doing. And so yeah, so that's I just feel like they're around us just simply because they want us to know that life is continual and they can still be around us and they can still be a part of our life. And that's where individuals say, "Well, did they make it to heaven?" The biblical calls it heaven. I just feel like that's another part of life. That's a continuing part of life. God created this life. God created the next life. And if you believe in God, which I do, then you know that God wants us to live eternally.
Absolutely. And there's no gray area. I either get the people that reach out to me that, are just s- so freaked out about living in a haunted house, and then there's the people that are so okay with it. Um, uh, I have people that live in these historic homes, and they'll see an apparition of something, and they'll do a little research and find out, oh, that's who that is, and then they're okay with it. Like I said again, if the spirit isn't acting up or seeming like trying to scare anybody in the home. A lot of these people are okay with it. I have a doctor friend that lives in Texas, and he bought an historic home, and they don't know who it is. If they're out in the yard lounging around somewhere out in the fields, they'll see this woman in period dress walking across the field and going back into the home, and it's like a third story, weird built third story type home, and there's one room like on the third floor that if they go in there and they move the furniture, or they put up a new painting, or they take something out of it, or they do any remodeling, after they're done, they'll hear the door slam, and they'll hear all kinds of commotion going on in the room, like furniture being moved around and stuff. And when they go back there later, after things seem to have calmed down, they'll go in and find out that everything's been put back the way it was before. They messed around a little bit and moved some things around. So they stopped doing it. They stopped allowing friends that come to visit to sleep in that room. They keep the door locked. They don't go in there. Um, what would you say to that? What do you think's going on there with that spirit?
Boy, that brought back a lot of memories. um, the first book I wrote, the very first book I wrote was a book called "You're Not Crazy, You Have a Ghost." And the way that book came about was I had a friend that this was before I actually began sharing with about my abilities, and we worked together at a company, and overheard her one day talking to a group of friends, and she was talking about this 1906 Victorian home that they had moved into, and they were renovating it, but she said, "We've been there 2 days and getting ready to move out because we got some crazy things going on." And so didn't at the time. I didn't publicize my abilities, and I went to her and we talked. And I said, "I'd love to come see your house sometime," because I said I love old homes like that. But my whole intention was to find out what was going on. She didn't know that. So I went to her house and she began telling me how they had moved in just 2 days before. They had blood stains appearing on the stairway. They come downstairs in the kitchen. Every cabinet door was open, and they just had all kinds of different things like that going on. So while I was in there, I was starting what I call connecting with and visiting with someone there, and I began asking her. I said, "What are you doing to this home?" And she said, "We're totally renovating it." She said, "Our intentions is to bring it back to the way it was when it was first built." Well, to make a long story, what we ended up doing, I do. So for the next few months, I went to their house and we were visiting with the original who built the house, and we actually got validations in the book. For one section of the book, her daughter was doing a science project and taking pictures of coming up out of the kettle, and they actually captured his photo, his face in that steam. He showed himself on that steam, and it's as clear as can be. And so we began understanding why he was there. He was simply helping them because the people who had lived in there before had pretty well updated it and wasn't it didn't look they had painted the walls purple, give you an example. And so they was renovating it back to the way it was whenever he built it. And he was simply trying to help them and guide them and tell them when I flicker these lights, that's telling you those lights are not, that this room isn't quite the color that it was. And so when we got all finished, and after several months, she told me we was standing in her kitchen one evening, and she said, "Rick, you've helped us so much. In fact, they lived there for 7 years." She said, "You helped us so much in understanding that he's not trying to get us out; he's just trying to help us." And she said, "You need," and I said, "Why don't you write it with me?" And she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you write about your experiences, and then I'll write about what the reasons is for those experiences, why it occurs." And she said, "Well, Rick, I'll be more than happy to," because she said, "I'm not crazy. I have a ghost." And I said, "That'd be a great title for a book. You're not crazy. You have a." That's how that one came about. So keep in mind, and I truly agree with man. The first key is if you have things going on, you live in a historic home. You can live in a home like mine, which is new, and you still have spirit running around. But when you're getting, for an example, if you get that doctor, if he will research the home, who lived there before, who built the home, if it's not the home, what's the land? Was the land maybe Native Americans on that land? Research, find out who it is, and then once you find out who you feel it could be, then start communicating with them. Start having them communicate with you and ask them why they are here, why they are giving these messages to you. What direction are they wanting to take? A lot of times, what I found out, Shawn, is they're just wanting to say, "I used to live here. Here's some memories. My Christmas tree, for example used to be on that side of the wall instead of that side of the wall." Things like that. So a lot of times it's just simply that. People have asked me, they said, "Rick, our place is haunted." My response to that is there's really is haunted. There's simply loved ones in spirit who are there trying to share with you, this is what we did here. This is where I worked here. This here. They're just simply wanting you to learn. And so a lot of times we take it because it's unexpected and we don't know how to take it. We get we get afraid right away. We get scared, and our fear immediately makes it negative energy. Um, I found out a lot of times it's not negative energy. It's loved ones in the spirit. Those in spirit are there just saying, "Hey, we want you to be comfortable here too, like we were." That's
I
weird.
agree. I'm the first one to always tell somebody that I'm not an expert and I don't have all the answers. And sometimes I get pushback on this too when I say that I don't think there are any experts and not nobody has all the answers. But I agree
Right.
with you that they know what's going on because they're already there.
Yeah.
And I know of cases I've worked where these homes are really really old and the ghosts that are still there, they might have, like in one case I'm thinking of, the homeowner that settled that land and built that home and then lived there all their lives and then passed away in the home, loved that home and their land so much they're still hanging around because that they just loved it that much. And not that they still have um, had such a grip on life that they can't let it go. They've
Yeah.
let go. They, like you
Yeah.
said, they're there. They're in the spirit world. But that was to them so wonderful, their land and their home and the life they lived there and the family they raised and all the experience. That's to them, that wonderful memory has transcended into the spirit world, and that's why they linger there, because they just love being there. Um, but they can be very protective too. It's like my house here. I don't really know what's going on here. I think there's was probably some, and I feel bad that I haven't done research on my own home. It's like when I was a veterinary technician. I retired from that, but they wouldn't let, even though I had done it for years and years and years, if I brought my own animal in and they needed an operation, they wouldn't want me, the doctors wouldn't want me to scrub in and assist on that operation because it was my animal. Why, I don't know. And it's the same thing with my home. I feel weird researching my own home unless I feel that there's something really malevolent here. I tend to just let things kind of happen. I think a lot of the spirit activity is in visitation or passing through because of what my wife and I do for a living. But I remember one time, um, there was a 911 call that generated from my home, and the police came to the house. Now, my wife was working, it was at night. My wife was working a concert. She was a part time special usher at a big concert venue place here in Vegas. I, at the time, was at someone's home saying goodbye to them because they were flying back to the UK in the morning. I hadn't had anything to drink. I wasn't drunk. I come home. I had a feeling I needed to get home for some reason. I had three mastiffs at home at the time. I come home. Everything seems okay, but I get this weird feeling. I pull in the driveway. Before I can even barely get out of my car, all these flashlights hit me, and guys are yelling at me to get down on the ground, put your hands behind your back, yada, yada, yada. So SWAT team just swarmed me. Well, apparently, somebody called 911 from the house, and when the police showed up, my mastiffs were going so crazy that they just thought that perhaps somebody inside was being ripped apart by my dogs and they needed to try and get in there. They were calling for help. Well, I explained to them that I just got home. I wasn't there. My wife is out working. I don't know who could be in the house. They thought, well, maybe someone broke in your house and the dogs are, you know, keeping them, attacked them. And this person is, calling for help. I got home just in the nick of time because they were about to break into the home, and they had animal control there and everything. They were going to try and take control of my dogs. I know how that would have ended up not well. They probably would have had to have to shoot my dogs, which would have been just brutal. But I told them, listen, let me go in there and I'll wrangle all my dogs into the master bedroom, shut the door, lock it, open the blinds, turn the lights on so you can see my dogs are in there. Then I'll let you guys come in. You can go anywhere you want to go and search around. Now, here's the thing, they didn't believe me. My house didn't even have a phone, a landline. So, how this 911 call generated from there, and they traced it to my house, plain and simple. There's no other explanation for it. They don't know where it came from other than coming from my house. I mean, I contacted a good friend who worked for the phone company. They just couldn't figure it out. I suspect, now later on after the police had left, I saw signs of a possible break in the back of my house. And I'm wondering, it could have been, I'm not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I'm not, against the fact that maybe there was a spirit here that was able to make this 911 call to prevent
Mhm.
this from happening. Um, what do you think about that?
Oh, well, first of all, can you hear me okay? We lost one of our mics, so can you hear
I
me okay?
I do. I can hear you okay. You earlier
Okay.
on, like you and I talked about it just before we went live, you were having some intermittent backing up. I mean,
Yeah.
freezing and cutting out. But we agreed that it was probably because you live in a smart home, and it is what it is. But no, you
Yeah.
sound great now.
Okay, good, good. Because I was talking about what I just talked about the home and being in the home and things. It's like, okay, maybe they're telling me to shut up. I don't know. So, uh, but well, I mean, again, which the experience you had is, I do feel that it could have been a spirit connection. It could have been a spirit helping. It could have been, if you had signs of a break in, for example, that spirit may have been helping you. I feel that they help us and do things like that. I got to ask you real quick. I can't see it because it's off the. I can. There's a poster on the right, on your right, that's got red lettering on it. Yeah,
My
there's
writer
something
here, here,
the other way, the other side.
here,
Yeah, yeah, that side.
right there.
Yeah, is that a shelf above there? And there's I shelf.
Yeah, that's a poster, an old cult classic collectible Tom
What's
Savini signed poster of a movie, but behind that is a shelf, and there is a nativity scene there.
okay? I'm getting pulled to share with you something about. I can't see it. It's off camera, but there's an item. There's something on that's off camera there that uh, I don't know if it's part of the nativity scene, but I'm supposed to recognize it. Where'd you get the nativity scene?
The nativity scene I probably took both of my parents, may they rest in peace. Um, I probably got it's a nativity scene, and behind that, up on the wall, is a bust of. Well, let me get my hands straight here. Right there is a bust of Jesus Christ, which is both of those are, I'm almost positive, I took from my parents' home after they had
Okay.
passed away.
Okay, that might be it. I was being pulled to recognize something that was off camera. They said they was telling me that I couldn't see it, but it was actually on a shelf. So I think it's on the shelf itself. So maybe they was talking about the whole if it's all nativity scene on that shelf, they may be talking about the shelf. So, and if it's your parents' connection, then this is a connection with your parents telling me this. So that's what happens with me, Shawn. When you live with me, that's what happens with me. All of a sudden, it's like, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
So, but no, going back to what you was talking about. I've had personally, I've had experiences where that I've been guided. We're told we're being guided by spiritual, and we're guided by our parents when we're growing up, and it's so we're guided throughout life. But there's been times I've had experiences not like yours, but I could say similar, that I know that I had someone in spirit that was, watching over me and taking care of me and telling me to move this or tell me to don't go this way or something like that. So I feel like again that we have those in spirit that is helping us in life. And I do this when I do what's called spiritual advisement, and that's where I do kind of a session or it's kind of classes on how to evolve your own abilities, because I truly feel we all have these abilities. We to know that life is continual. And so, but as we're growing up, we're told it's a coincidence, we're told it's imagination, and we start blocking them. But I share with everyone, when you get this thought, when you get something telling you, don't turn left, go right, don't second guess that, because you're being guided. And the more you do that, the more you'll find that your life seems to like fall in place as it should. And so I always say, don't second guess what you're getting. That's, again, we tend to do that because of our upbringing, because we're told, oh, that's a coincidence. Oh, I want it to be that way. But a lot of times it's not. A lot of times you are actually connecting with that person or that someone in spirit saying, I wouldn't go right, I'd go left. And because I've had that on my own personal experiences where I've been went down a road and all of a sudden I thought I was supposed to turn right, but I was told to turn left. And then I find out later that was an actual experience. When I chose to turn left. I had either option to go to the direction and where my destination was going to be. I turned left instead of right. I found out the car fell up accident. If I had turned right, I'd been stuck in that traffic in that accident. So it was guiding me, and I paid attention to it. So you were being protected. Someone took care of your house.
Yeah, I believe that too, and I do know that my parents are in visitation amongst other spirits. What's your take on the whole elemental thing? I've had uh, cases where I believe there was something attached to the land that was non-human entity like, and even I've had some of that happen here on my own property. Do you uh, do you buy into the elemental thing, or do you think it's all just human spirits?
Um, Boy, you're really hitting with some good questions tonight. um, well, first of all, I'll go this direction. Elementals, I do feel like there are those that are a different type of spirit. They're not a spirit that was in a physical form at any time. I do feel like there's some spirits. I look at it this way. Yeah, there's spirits out there that doesn't want us to believe in the next part of life. They want us to think life is terrible. They want us to think that everything that happens here in our life is negative, and they want us to be in a negative attitude. So elementals, I choose my answer to that is, though, I choose not to mess with them. I choose not to for them to be in my life. I have that control. They don't. If I don't want them in my life, I don't. They don't. They're not going to be in my life. And that's, TV has kind of told us that, go be scared. We got something here that's not. No, you can say get out of here. You don't need to mess with them. The other part is on this is, because you brought this up. People ask me also, Shawn, about residual spirits. Those who seem like they keep doing same thing and same experience over and over and over. They say, they're stuck with that. They're stuck with that routine. No, I'll say it again. No, here's the example I give on that is, if I guess you could call me a residual spirit, because when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do, besides I give thanks and all that, first thing I do is come down my stairway, go straight into my kitchen, get my coffee off my Keurig coffee maker, take my coffee, go into my office, get me a book or get me something to read that's positive, and I do it every morning when I'm home. Now, does that make me a residual spirit because I'm doing that same routine every morning? Or what is it, just a part of my life here, part of my day? So a lot of times when we have those that are showing us over and over and over, they're trying to say, this is what I did in my life. This is what I did. I want you to learn from it. I want you to know what I did here. I want you to know the experiences I did. I want you to know this was a part of my daily life. I don't feel like they're stuck. Again, how can you be stuck? And use common sense here. Why would you be stuck getting coffee every morning or going in hall? You're stuck going down this same hallway in this building all the time. You're not stuck. They're just showing you what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was always on the fence with the residual thing, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone and I was actually able to interrupt the residual haunt. I was at a house where they had a bomb shelter underneath the home. It was built like in the 50s. So they had built back then, that was the big thing. Everybody thought we were going to get bombed. So they built this bomb shelter underground. Eventually, they turned it into a spa and a bowling alley. And they kept telling me how they see this woman walk down the bowling alley and up these stairs, and and that's all she does. And if you're in the stairs, lead to this trap door that comes through a fake bookshelf into a bar, and then the bar leads into a ballroom, and the ballroom leads to a beauty parlor that they built. And that's the same route that this female spirit takes. And they said, and it's just the same time every day, same time every night, couple of times a day. She walks the same thing. So don't worry about her. She's a residual. Well, I happened to be down in the bowling alley, and I actually thought I was walking, and I actually thought my wife Sharon was coming up behind me because I could clearly hear somebody walking in the bowling alley up the lane behind me. So I took a selfie, and I didn't look at the picture till later. But after I took the selfie, I turned around to just kind of joke with my wife, and I came face to face with this woman, and she was so real that I thought it was a homeless person actually that had somehow snuck in because there was a private entrance to the bowling alley from outside. And I thought this homeless person had gotten in there and was walking up behind me. But then I quickly realized that this wasn't a real person. But she stopped because I was in her way looking at me. And it wasn't until I moved out of her way that she continued to walk. And I was actually able to follow her to the other end of the bowling alley, up the stairs. Of course, she went right through the wall. I had to push the door open and walk in, and then I lost her. And then I heard her later on go into the beauty parlor, but I was frantically taking photos because I didn't know where she had gone. And later on, that my selfie I took in the bowling alley had this huge orb right above my right shoulder. And one of the photos I took in the ballroom, I caught her apparition in the reflection of a mirrored pillar
Wow.
where she was walking into the beauty parlor. So I debunked that wasn't residual at all. It was
Mhm.
intelligent. And I agree
Mhm.
with you 100%. I don't buy into the residual haunt at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I I I always, but I don't, I'm correct. In fact, I even share the psychic medium out there that's 100% accurate. If they tell you they're 100% accurate, uh, because we can misinterpret. So we're not 100%. Boy, this is bugging me, Shawn. I got to go back real quick to your nativity scene over there. We're off the screen. Yeah, off the screen there. Are there some pieces I cannot see? I know what a nativity
Well,
scene is.
there's a lot of haunted objects or alleged objects that had attachments to them that have been given to me or gifted to me over the years, and they're all around the room. Um,
Okay.
and I've been recently doing some shows because all of a sudden, with the Annabelle incident, haunted
Yeah.
objects have become a big thing. So I've been talking to a lot of people about a lot of the objects in my home, and I'm thinking I've moved some of them, I've handled some of them, I've talked about some of them a lot as of recently, and I'm thinking that might have stirred something up.
Okay. I'm getting though that there's something that needs to be. It's not in the right place. And
Okay.
is it on that shelf? Is it just the nativity scene only?
On that shelf, but there's other shelves in here that have other things. And there's a shelf yeah, there's a shelf that I just took several items off of,
Okay.
and everything's been bound. If it comes to me and I feel that it's got some type of negativity attached to it, I lay hands on it and I say a lot of
Okay.
deliverance prayers over it, and then I will set them down on salt and sometimes cover them up and bind them. And these objects on this one shelf, I handled them way too much recently here, and they haven't been rebound. So I think I've stirred something
Okay.
up.
Okay. All right. Um, that's all I'm going to say. You got it. You got it. So don't worry about it. You got it. You got it taken care of. You spoke about Annabelle right away, earlier, real quick. I'll be with Annabelle in about 2 weeks. I'm gonna be at an event where Annabelle's going to be there. The first time I get to be around her, so I'm going to see what I get, see what I connect with. The group that has it is going to be there, and so I'm anxious to see if I get to meet Annabelle and Annabelle gets to meet me. So we'll see what happens.
Well, let me ask you this: what scares everybody? Sometimes when I tell people, "Yeah, I'm just only human," of course I get anxious sometimes and scared sometimes, and sometimes I get scared for other people. What scares Rick Hayes? I mean, you're going to be seeing Annabelle. Um, yeah, and I get a lot of people that are truly convinced they have psychic gifts. But that whole thing being able to communicate with spirit freaks them out so bad they try and suppress.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's so good if they are so truly freaked out about having that gift. I can understand why they might want to suppress it, but maybe that's the wrong thing to do. Or if they're going to mess with it at all, they need to speak to someone like you and learn how to
Mm-hmm.
focus and hone their talent and know how to work with it, because it can be very frightening if you're gifted and you don't know how to handle it. But what that's a two-part question. What scares you? And if you talk to somebody that is gifted but they're fighting it, what's your advice?
As far as what scares me, it's simple: snakes. Snakes and I don't get along at all. I mean, I tell everyone
Yeah,
I've been to
me
every
too.
quote haunted place, every quote haunted place you can be. I've been there all through the United States and parts of Canada. But you put a snake in that room, I'm out of there. I am out of there. So me and snakes don't get along at all. The second part about there's someone who's suppressing it, just allow yourself to be you, just allow it. If you choose not to acknowledge it, just go ahead and don't acknowledge it, and just you'll have little intuitions or little thoughts sometimes, but don't just choose not to make it a part of your life. If you want to evolve, which I feel like everyone should in some way, if you want to evolve because it will help you with life, if you want to evolve with your abilities, again, everyone's unique, everyone's their own individual creation. So your abilities may be different than mine. I always tell everyone, don't try Edward, don't try to be Rick Hayes, don't try to be Teresa Caputo. Be you, because abilities may be you may work with your abilities a different way than I work a different Teresa does. And so, you find who you are, be comfortable with that. If you have fear about it, just maybe recognize fear comes from your upbringing. Maybe it comes from, I was scared early in my childhood because I grew up in church and was telling me what I had was not of God. And it's like, well, then if it's not of God, I don't want it. So why do I have it? Well, then what I started doing is I started learning more about it. I started understanding it more. And I started understanding that it was a part of our creation to know that life is continual. And my fear became less and less, because when you lower your fear base, you'll raise your confidence and also lower your insecurity. So the first key thing is, if you feel like you're afraid of it, just simply then choose not to accept it. If you're afraid of it because you don't know exactly what it is, then learn about it. Start evolving, learn about it. Talk to individuals who, as maybe like me, who's had them all my life. Talk to those who, like like you, Shawn, who you can help and help them evolve. And be patient with the other thing. Just be patient. It took me years to 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 really get really comfortable with it and patient with it. So I don't really feel like you should really be afraid of it. You're afraid of it because there's an old saying that you fear those things that you do not understand. And so once you begin understanding, less and less afraid. So for example, me and snakes. If I and I tried if I held a snake, if I had a snake around, if I would look at a snake or something, my fear would become less and less. That's what they tell me. But it seems like every time I see a snake, I want to run away. But so I choose not to be around snakes.
I don't blame you, brother. I'm not a big fan of the snakes either.
Mm,
I talk to a lot of parents that will reach out to me and say they truly believe that their son or daughter, um, and you know how kids just will just speak right off the cuff what they're seeing and experiencing, and they truly believe that their child is psychically gifted, and because the parents are so not into that at all, they're freaked out, but they don't know how to handle their child now. If they should suppress that or encourage that or seek help. What advice would you give to some of these parents that are a little freaked out because now their son or daughter has come to them and say, Mommy, I see grandpa and grandpa around the house all the time. Mommy, grandma tells me to tell you this. Don't do that or don't do this. Mommy, remember my friend Tommy who got hit by the car and died down the street? I see him in the backyard all the time. And some of these parents are truly freaked out and they know their child wouldn't lie or make these things up. They know they got a little psychic on their hand and they don't know what to do now because they don't want the world to think their child is a freak. So
yeah.
they don't know which move to go.
Well, first of all, I understand that child because growing up with these abilities, I kept them to myself. We didn't talk about them, but my family knew. We just didn't talk about them until about 25 years ago because I've been out in the public now for almost 25 years. But through my life, and it was simply because I didn't want everybody to think I was weird. I wanted friends, so I just kept it to myself. First thing I share is, first of all, I do, like I said earlier in the show, I feel like we're all born with these abilities. Little children just accept what's there. They haven't been told yet. Society hadn't raised them yet to tell them that it's a coincidence. It's your imagination. So they just accept what's there. So if you have a child that is sharing with you that they're talking to the grandmother and the grandmother's listen. Just allow them to talk and listen, and because that helps with their confidence. You don't want to encourage it. In other words, you don't want to go to them and the next morning say, "Did you see a ghost around you? Did you see grandma?" You don't want to encourage. You allow them to evolve the way they want to evolve. And if it seems like that they're evolving with it, and it seems like it's getting where they're more comfortable with it, then start working with them and start and maybe get with someone like me or get with someone who's went through life knowing what it feels like as a child with these abilities. And so that individual, then that child can then feel comfortable. They may choose. You want the child to let the child know that they are not going to be harmed, that they're going to be protected, they're going to be okay. And then if they choose to, for the child, if the child chooses not to talk about it with anyone else, respect that. The parents should not be going around saying, "My kid's a psychic, my kid's a psychic." You let the child decide how they want to be. And then if you notice that they're becoming more and more attuned with their abilities, then you start researching, you start looking more into it, you start talking to individuals like myself and you, and so they can learn themselves. So, but the bottom line is let the child be the child. Let them be okay with if they're seeing these things. Let them be okay. Sometimes we can learn from children, you know.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so if they're telling you that grandma is telling them this, pay attention to it, you know. So that's my advisement on children.
Well, brother, um, it's about that time.
Crazy, crazy. This goes so fast every time I've been on this show, and it's just like 5 minutes.
Did you have fun? Will you come back again?
I absolutely will. You're
Tell anybody anything you want them to know, how they can reach out to you, a website, or I know you have a wonderful, obviously a Facebook profile, but you've got a Facebook page, Rick Hayes, Psychic Medium. You've got a website, I believe it's lifesgift.com. You've got some events coming up. Anything you really want anybody to know before I kick you out of here?
Well, I've got a platform. It's a subscription-based show. It's called Soul Touch. We just launched it about 6 weeks ago. I felt like it was time for me to do the show. We talk about things that I feel like it was time for me to talk about. Things like we talk about things about life, like how to change to a good. And then we have things on there about what are orbs, what exactly you see an orb, what's an orb. And so I share what I feel. I that's given me that. I travel to different events. My next event is going to be called the Rock Island. Don't hold me against this. It's in Rock Island, Illinois, but it's going to be a 1 day. It's a huge event. Like I said, Annabelle's going to be there. I think they've got like 150 vendors that's going to be there this year. So it's becoming very big. I want to be there. Another real quick, I want to share because it's a passion to me and it means a lot to me. I do an event it's coming up in February. This will be our 3rd year. It's called the I Am Mom, and it's for moms who's had a child that's passed through miscarriage, accident, suicide, and it's specifically for those moms. And we treat them at this resort, and we feed them lunch, and we have speakers coming in. But the key to the whole event, Shawn, is getting moms together that can see that there's others out there that's going through what they're going through, and they can interact with one another. They're not in this world alone, and so it's a very passionate event for me to do that. So, but if you want to know more what I'm doing, get on my Facebook, and get on my website, and we'll give you all the details.
God bless you, Rick. You're on the prayer list. I love you. I respect you. I think you're super cool. Good luck with Annabelle. Tell Rhonda I said hi, and have a wonderful remainder to your Friday and a great weekend.
Thank you, Father, and like always, end everything. Believe.
I love you, brother. I'll see you later. Rick Hayes, psychic medium, truly gifted psychic medium, Rick Hayes. Yeah, look him up. Okay, guys, I have some things to do after I get off camera here. I've got some objects to bind, apparently. Next Friday, August 29th, Happy Medium Monthly. It's your chance to get a free psychic reading online with Susan Ahern, the Cape Cod Happy Medium. That's next Friday. Thank you to United Public Radio Network for carrying my show. God bless Joe Montaldo and Michelle DeRoche for making that happen. And God bless each and every one of you for tuning in, because I don't have a show without you guys. And I mean that. Okay, don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we have Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. We're just getting started here on High Strangeness Fridays on UPRN. And United States Old Catholic Church, check it out. Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary, check them out. And remember, brothers and sisters, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, reach out to me and we'll make arrangements to have you and your product line and everything you got going on mentioned live on air during the show. All right, brothers and sisters. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless you all in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Peace.